I think that we can't have objective morality, but that we can choose a subjective objective, and then we can determine morality off that.
Only problem is, at the time of the Dred Scott decision, you suckers who are African American, wrong place, wrong time. You're 3/5 the value of white folk, because that's what we've all commonly agreed to. What a novel idea. That we're not all predetermined by our culture or by our biochemical makeup. We're human beings with a free will, with a soul.
This debate opens with a deep dive into the nature of morality. A student argues for subjective objective morality, prompting Cliffe to challenge the implications for historical injustices like the Dred Scott decision. The conversation quickly shifts to the concept of agnosticism concerning God's existence and the very purpose of human life. Both speakers grapple with the weight of evidence, its interpretation, and what truly constitutes a basis for belief.
I think that we can't have objective morality, but that we can choose a subjective objective, and then we can determine morality off that. So if we're going to decide, hey, we want to limit human suffering, that sounds great. Then stepping on him would not be conducive to that objective, because he would suffer as a result of that. If we don't want to care for animals at all, that's fine. I don't think that that would necessarily be the ethical objective that I would subscribe to, but then I would say that stepping on the roach is just fine, because in that context, it's totally all right. But it would not be all right to step on him, because we've agreed that human suffering is what we want to limit.
Only problem is, at the time of the Dred Scott decision, you suckers who are African American, wrong place, wrong time. You're 3/5 the value of white folk, because that's what we've all commonly agreed to. And my point is, I think you know better than that. I think every one of you has a conscience, and every one of you respects Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, because they followed their conscience instead of following society. What a novel idea. That we're not all predetermined by our culture or by our biochemical makeup. We're human beings with a free will, with a soul, with the ability to contradict our culture, to go against biological instincts, and to do what's right instead of what's expedient. In fact, I bet you guys have far more respect for people who do what's right than what's expedient.
I agree with you that Christianity has been ahead of the game on a lot of stuff morality-wise, but it's also been left behind. And so it's a lot easier, well, though we do make mistakes, certainly, to base your morality in something that can change, that can be updated, so that we can change and we can be more moral for one another than by some book that is revered as being divine. Because then we can't change it, then you can't argue with that. What's so amazing about agreeing about morality is that we can revise things, we can make mistakes, and we can get better. But if we're given a book, if we're prescribed something, we have no ability to improve.
I wasn't talking about a book. I was talking about atheism versus theism. I was taking what you said seriously, which is we are all biochemically determined. You said that there is no God, that we are biologically determined by our chemicals, that tells the whole story.
I never said anything about there being no God.
Oh, come on. Do you think there's a God?
Do I think there's a God? I do not know if there's a God or not.
Okay, fine. So don't give me this gibberish that you think there might be a God. You don't know whether there's a God, you don't really care whether there's a God.
Between saying there is no God and I don't know if there's a God. I think to say there is no God is equivalent to saying there is a God in the same way that you have a burden of proof one way or another. I'm simply claiming that I see no evidence for there to be one.
Technically agnostic.
Yeah.
I think you can be agnostic when it comes to Coke or Pepsi, which is better. Because it really doesn't matter. But sure, it's impossible to be agnostic about God. Why? Because God has everything to do with human value. You got to hold a little baby and decide, is this baby droppable? Or does this baby have innate dignity? You have to make a decision. Is there a purpose to life or not? If life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing, so be it. But you can't be agnostic because you have to live with meaning and purpose. So you live as if there was meaning and purpose. You can't be agnostic because you got to make ethical decisions. Cheat on the next exam or you don't cheat. Cheat the IRS or pay your taxes. And golly, you're going to have to sit at Grandma and Grandpa's funeral, Mom and Dad's funeral. Oh, I'm agnostic. I don't know if there's life after death. Well, wake up and smell the coffee. You're either going to see that dead body again or you're not. And you can't flip back and say, oh, I'm just agnostic, baby. I really don't know. Because you have to make decisions of human value, your own value and other people's value. You have to decide about meaning and purpose in life because you got to live your life. You have to make ethical decisions every single day. And you have to decide whether there's life after death or not. Because you're going to face death, buddy. Sorry. That's reality. So don't give me this gibberish that you're agnostic. You don't know if God exists. Because the decisions that you make every day shows whether you believe in God or not.
It's not one of, I don't know or I don't care. It's that to say that God does not exist would be an assertion. It's the same thing as saying, talking about leprechauns, right? I assume leprechauns aren't real because I have seen no evidence for them to be real. I assume God to not be real because I have seen no evidence for God to be real. But I have not seen evidence that he is necessarily not real. Not that that would necessarily even exist. But just to be clear on my position there.
Dr. Ian Hutchinson, professor at MIT. Dr. Troy Van Voorhis, professor at MIT. Susan Hockfield, the first female president of MIT. All are tremendous scientists. They don't believe in leprechauns, and they have a profound faith in Christ.
That's great.
Yeah, well, it's not leprechaun stuff, buddy. It's thinking through what does the evidence point to. And the overwhelming evidence is there's got to be some type of mind behind this complex order and design we have. There's got to be some type of God. As Einstein put it, what is most incomprehensible to me is that the universe is comprehensible. Why on earth are you going to take this flying quantum leap? My rational mind actually tells me the truth about the universe. Well, why on earth does that happen? Why on earth do you trust your rational mind to tell you the truth about the universe? And Einstein was spot on. What's really incomprehensible is how this universe is so comprehensible by the human mind. Why the connection? Where does the ability come from to do good science, to unlock the secrets of the universe? Or as Johann Kepler, the father of modern astronomy, exclaimed, "Oh God," as you're looking out at the stars at night, "Oh God, I am thinking your thoughts after you." Or Galileo when he writes, "The Bible tells us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go." Back to the science issue. The Bible's not a scientific textbook, but it certainly is a revelation of a personal God. It certainly is an ethical manual. It certainly talks a lot about human value, human meaning and purpose in life, ethics, and life after death. Sorry, you don't study that in biology, or chemistry, or physics, even at a fine university like this, because that's not science.
What is not science?
Human value.
Human value?
Meaning and purpose in life, ethics, and life after death possible.
Life after death, I feel like, would be utterly a scientific discussion. What do you define life as?
Science is based on observability. He died, was buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. 3 days later, he appeared risen from the dead. And over a period of 40 days, he appeared to 500 people. But guess what? The reason I don't have any problem with that is you don't get George Washington back in your lab here every fall to prove to me that Washington was the first president of the United States. It's called historical knowledge. It has nothing to do with the repeatability of an experiment. It has everything to do with the trustworthiness of eyewitness testimony. Somebody saw George inaugurated. They write it down. And do they charge you money to study history here?
Charge you money to study history?
Yeah, do they do that?
No.
Oh, yes, they do. You don't take free history courses here at Princeton?
I don't take history.
You don't take history?
I do not, no.
Well, just, open up the mind a little and realize that there's something called historical knowledge. We can study history. That has nothing to do with the repeatability of an experiment in a lab. It has to do with people saw George. And if anybody tells you the Holocaust didn't take place, say, I'm sorry, that's a lie. The overwhelming historical evidence is the Holocaust did take place, and Jews were gassed into Kaunas. Not because you can scientifically prove that at Princeton next fall, but because it's historical knowledge. Scientifically prove to me that your memories of your life yesterday are accurate.
Well, I have videos from yesterday.
Good.
Photos from yesterday.
Yeah.
So certain things that I recall from yesterday
Good.
I have documented.
Good. And Forrest Gump met President Kennedy.
That was a movie.
Yeah, that was a movie, yeah. You talked about videos.
Yes.
Yeah, anybody can doctor videos.
Yeah, well, are we just, we can call any evidence into question. Yes, right. We can't be 100% certain about anything.
I have never said that I can prove God or that I can prove Jesus. What I have said is the solid evidence is that God exists, and the evidence is that Jesus is reliable. I cannot prove him. Absolutely correct. And guess what? I can't prove you either.
Well, our difference of opinion is simply, we both agree we cannot prove this stuff.
Right.
You're simply saying, I think I have good reason to believe. You think you have good evidence.
Yes.
And I'm saying, I don't think you have good evidence.
Good.
Okay. That's
No problem.
So it's literally just a matter of looking at evidence and making up our mind.
Oh, that's very true. It is a matter of looking at evidence and making up our mind. So what I've heard you say is, there's not enough evidence for God, there's not enough evidence for Christ, no problem. Now, please tell me, as a hard-thinking evidentialist, what you are living for, and what's the evidence that whatever it is you are living for is true.
What am I living for?
Yeah, what motivates you through life? What are you living for?
Well, I think the thing that's motivating me right now is just like the pursuit of knowledge. I really like just expanding the base of human knowledge and understanding more about the universe.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And what's the evidence that the purpose of a human life is to gain knowledge?
There is none.
You say, I'm living for knowledge, and I ask you why. What's the evidence that living for knowledge is true? And you say there is none. Don't you see the intellectual hypocrisy? Think it through for yourself. Do not take it from me. I think you'd be a fool to believe in God because I do. Instead, look at the evidence for God's existence. Look at the historical evidence for Christ, and then you decide for yourself.